So now we go to the sharing of the experiences. And as I was saying, when we met all the direct access entities, AFDB, that was when I was the GCF coordinator at AFDB before my secondment. And we had an agreement that it would be great to have a platform where we could all share experiences. And this is very, very, very important because still in the area of coordination and mutual support, we as Africans have to know how we could collaborate and support each other. We shouldn't be working in silos. We are not competing with each other. And I believe that most of you who are on this call, who were there, know how we are committed to this mutual help, mutual support, pulling and pushing together. And we are so much honored to have the CEO of EIF to share their experiences. And before then, I would just like to take about 2 minutes to go through why their experience is so important. So when we look at the time that they took to get their first funding proposal after the accreditation, they did it within 465 days, whilst the average for African DAEs was 1,172. Certainly, there are a lot of best practices that they could tell us how they were able to do that. When we look at their pipeline duration, they are able to swing averagely. They have 4 funding proposals approved, but averagely they were able to swing that within 207 days, whilst the average for Africa is 997 days. They were able to do the FP024, they were able to swing it within 80 days. How do they do that? They are here to share their experiences so that it will be of benefit to other DAEs. Then when we look at the FP approval to FA effectiveness, which presents a lot of challenges to some, they were able to do it the days that it takes for African countries. And then their effectiveness to first disbursement, after the approval, you cannot actually have disbursement. So we take the lag from when effectiveness, and then you could get to the disbursement, when everything has been done for you to get the disbursement. And they were able to do it within 76 days, which is outstanding. And when you look at their disbursement ratio, currently the amount that has been approved for them and the amount that they have disbursed and deployed for the project, this is excellent. 89% of the money that they have received, they've deployed it. We have DAEs that have received the money, and for even international accredited entities that have received the money, and for over 4 or 5 years, they've not been able to deploy a single. So this is very outstanding performance. And so with this, I want to invite Mr. Benedict Libanda, who is the CEO of EIF, and we've shared his profile with you. Because of time, I wouldn't be able to read everything. But if you want to know his profile, and then you also want to know after the presentation, I will provide you other information about the advisory and technical assistance that are available for you. So over to you.
Can everyone see my presentation?
Yes, we can, and we can hear you. Please go ahead.
Okay. Thank you so much. Let me use this opportunity to thank the African Development Bank, specifically Timothy, for extending the invitation to the Environmental Investment Fund of Namibia to share lessons of our journey with the Green Climate Fund. I know we are so excited to be sharing these experiences and lessons. And, again, once again, thank you so much, and greetings to everyone who is joined online from Namibia. My name is Benedict Libanda. I think before I go into the details of the presentation, there's some just fascinating history between the EIF and the GCF that I want to just want to share. The Environmental Investment Fund was formed more or less the same as the GCF. So we started in 2012 to implement our work program in Namibia. By that time, the GCF had advertised a call for a country host for the headquarters of the GCF. The Namibian government then directed the Environmental Investment Fund to coordinate the bid to host the GCF headquarters in Namibia. So I was the secretariat to that bid committee, and we submitted our bids. We're competing with Germany, Poland, Mexico, Switzerland, South Korea, and Namibia. And we came number 2 on the hosting of the headquarters, and it was awarded to South Korea in Songdo. And I think that sent a very strong signal to the Namibian government and requested the EIF really to prioritize the work of the GCF. And that's how we started in terms of relationship, as well as working together with the GCF. The rest I'll go in detail. Okay, that is the table of contents, which will share a journey of the EIF at each stage of the GCF project cycle. How we were able to engage with the GCF on accreditation, project development, execution, reporting, and then I'll also touch on our strategic partners that we've expanded, as well as on the progress that the EIF has achieved since the accreditation of the GCF. A bit about the Environmental Investment Fund. Their fund, as I say, established in 2012 in terms of its operations. Of course, the actual legal mandate establishment was 2001, but operations only started in 2012. And the mandate is to mobilize financial resources for direct investment in environmental protection and sustainable development. We only operate in Namibia as we are a state-owned entities. We are a parastatal extension of government arm. And that's where we operate. Of course, we do have regional, strategic partnership and international partnerships. In 2016, we were the 19th entity to be accredited by the Green Climate Fund. I would think that we were the second or third direct access entity in Africa that was accredited by then. We were re-accredited in 2022. We were the 4th entity to be re-accredited. And I'm extremely happy to hear the news that the re-accreditation form has taken a different development. It was a doubting task. We thought it was easier than the initial accreditation. So our accreditation scope is micro-sized projects. We are a small entity. We have got basic fiduciary standards that specialize on granting and we're accredited on the category B of the environmental safeguards. We started our engagement in 2015 with the GCF, where we opened, by that time called the online application system, that has been replaced by the DAP. In 2015, we launched our accreditation. And in 2016, in June, our accreditation was approved by the GCF board. And while we were pursuing accreditation, we're also doing a pipeline development. 2017, just few months of our accreditation, we had 2 funding proposals approved by the GCF. 2018, first disbursement received, and currently we have delivered 4 projects at micro scale for 40 million US dollars. 2 of those projects have successfully closed with termination reports already submitted to the GCF. 2 are ongoing and are closed. One is closing in October this year. The other one is closing in June next year. At the moment, we do have 2 proposals that we are submitting to the GCF by the first quarter of 2026. And we received a project preparation grant from the GCF to develop these proposals further. I think one of the important, important success factor that really helped us in our GCF journey is that, one, we were proactively planning in terms of responding to the GCF requirements. If one looks very careful on the structure of the EIF, the policies and the processes that we have set ourselves, and including the policies, they closely align with those of the GCF. So we initially looked and followed the development of the GCF and aligned our institutions to the requirements and the anticipated vision of the GCF. I think that was extremely helpful. So we then worked on parallel session. As we've applied for accreditation, we're busy programming at the same time, making sure that at the time of accreditation, at least would have some concept notes that will fast track our submission for proposal to the Green Climate Fund. Ongoing communication was key, and engagement with the GCF. Within the EIF staff members, the EIF has attended more than 23 board meetings of the GCF in Songdo and in other areas where the board took place as observer. The reason being is that we really needed to align and make sure that we follow every decision of the GCF. And hence, you note that the first simplified approval process proposal was accessed by the EIF. The first enhanced direct access was accessed by the EIF as well. Because we're proactive, we could anticipate where the GCF was heading, and then we align our proposal towards those requirements. The attending board meetings was extremely helpful because that's where we would engage the GCF staff members on the corridors, the advisors, the ITAP, and at some occasions the board members, and one will get a feel and flavor of what's happening and how we respond to the anticipated vision of the GCF. When it comes to reducing days from accreditation to first approval, I think we were able to achieve that. As we've heard, normally is an average of 18 months to get accreditation to the GCF when you look at the entities that have been accredited. And we did that in 9 months. And by that time, we're not accredited by any other institution. It was a normal track accreditation application. We were not fast-tracked, but what we did is really to make sure that our accreditation application was ready, and that required early concept developments in terms of developing our accreditation scopes, and then having the development of concepts for proposals, as well as fast-tracking the review of those concepts. But most importantly, the national priorities alignment, extremely important, as our program was heavily supported by the national development plans, the climate change action plans, and right now we are following with the NDCs to align in terms of our programming. Again, I spoke about proactive GCF engagement. That is extremely important. The GCF works with a number of entities, and they only headquartered in Songdo, and you can imagine the volumes of correspondence for when they work with those agencies. So proactive engagement becomes a key. Some entities that we have engaged with in Africa, they've been complaining of non-responsive or late responsive from the GCF. And I think in our way of engaging is that our attendance to the GCF board meetings has really developed some relationship, even beyond professional relationship, to having even direct cell phone numbers of certain GCF staff members. If we feel that they are not responsive as we would have liked, would, of course, communicate formally through email, and then we'll follow up on their cell phone numbers. What's up? Hey, have you seen this email? Please respond. And it has been very, very effective, in our engagement. But how did we develop our pipeline? I think we got early technical assistance to develop a pipeline for the ERF. And we got that from it was GIZ. Yeah, GIZ and KFW. And we developed a pipeline that was about in 2016 already when we were applying for accreditation. And this pipeline was then approved by the NDA. Extremely important to have a good working relationship with the NDA. And how do you achieve that is by scheduling meetings, update meetings where feedback loops are delivered, and you share every progress and challenges that you're experiencing as a direct access entity. So that was extremely, extremely helpful with the NDA. And then we've structured pipeline management. A pipeline management structured is when you prioritize which projects to move towards a full proposal, and then which projects would be prioritized from a national priority perspective. And then management of the pipeline. We set ourselves an internal committee to manage and review every 2 weeks, bi-weekly. How does the pipeline look like? How is it developing? We've set ourselves a timelines and targets. What are the bottlenecks? Can we, for example, conduct one of our development partners to assist with technical assistance? etc. And that increased visibility by 40% compared to an average level. I think all these were really deliberate strategic management intervention that the EIF is still even implementing up today in terms of fast tracking the pipeline. Now, reducing days from full proposal approval to FAA effectiveness. We're able to achieve that by 65% through these practices. Early legal negotiations. After the project has been approved by the board, we will not wait until GCF contacts us. Maybe 4 days after that, we'll start negotiating on the FAA or the provision of the FAA, and would initiate discussions with the GCF. And that really saved us an average of 45 days in terms of having an FAA executed just after the board decision. I think the subsequent projects, because FAA became standardized, so we could anticipate certain provisions of the FAA. Of course, there were some provisions that were project specific in terms of conditions, and that further reduced our effectiveness by 30 days. And then parallel compliance processing. When the project is approved, there are always some conditions that an entity should comply with. And as you are negotiating the FAA, we also addressing the compliance to those recommendations. I think some countries like Namibia, I think we've been helped with agility. It's extremely easy to get documentation through the Office of the Government Attorneys and get some legal opinions and directions from there. I think that was really, really effective, But more so, it was the awareness that we created to our stakeholders, especially those that issues approvals to access funding. So we had created that awareness with the Minister of Finance, because as a government entity, Treasury is responsible for resource mobilization. We have created also that awareness with the National Planning Commission, which is responsible for development cooperation, as well as awareness with the Office of the Attorney General, so that they are aware of the agency should we require such assistance with their respective ministries. So we could easily get things going at a very short time. So disbursements became a key and the benchmark for delivering of our projects in Namibia. Our first project, first 2 projects, we learned a key lessons there, that we did not have a well-balanced procurement system in our first 2 projects. But the subsequent one, we had an advanced procurement planning. Normally, projects are affected because of procurement. If the procurement is not streamlined, and activities, bids goes on the market, some bidders, become aggrieved. They will, issue challenges and not really challenges, but appeals. And in handling those appeals, it can be a lengthy process. So within the EIF, we do have a review and an appeal mechanism, which is extremely efficient. And the members of these appeal committees are independent. They are not involved in the operational processes of the EIF. So they take an objective decision whenever there's an appeal. and they could be called to meet within 24 hours to preside over an issue. So those were extremely important structure internally in terms of making sure that our stakeholders are treated and attended to in a manner that is transparent. Pre-identifying of implementation partners. So our implementation partners or executing partners were pre-identified within the feasibility studies, because if you after the feasibility study, after the full proposal has been submitted, then you go and look for an executing or implementing partners, it can be havoc. It can really delay implementations. Again, I mentioned about early fulfillment of conditions. Conditions precedent to FAA execution should be fulfilled as early as possible. I think most of the entities are struggling when it comes to fulfilling those conditions. And clear disbursement triggers and schedules. So what we've done, we established for each project milestone that is based to the project implementation plan, where we look at the cash flow, where we look at the project timelines, and the committee internally set within the finance department to ensure that there is timely delivery and also call out on disbursements. Am I still online or I'm talking to myself?
You are still online, Benedict. So,
Okay.
yeah, we are just listening to you. You are providing us very, very useful information. And I believe that the NDAs that are struggling in
Yeah.
a lot of these areas are also listening. So I believe we may have a lot of questions. And if you could, stop at that is in 7 minutes or 5 minutes, so that those who have questions. And what we're also planning to do is that we may have to follow up with a technical, session only for direct access entities, because this is a great information.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Within that 7 minutes, I promise you I'll be done. Yeah. We're able to improve disbursement ratio as a result of those oversight management by 92%. So this would entail regular expenditure tracking, automated financial management systems that really produce digital dashboard for reporting to the project steering committee and subsequent to the board, and then engaging a technical team of financial experts to help us with the delivery. So the key success indicators was that financing report cycle reduced from 45 to 15 days because of efficiency in our financial management systems. Budget variances, decreased from 26% to 8%, which was extremely important, and the success factors. And implementation time adherence improved by 34%. So those are the kind of accelerated completion of fund activities that we did. And there's been milestone-based project management. Every 2 weeks we meet to make sure that project activities are timely executed. If we don't meet after 2 weeks as management, would be overtaken by events. So that was very key from an oversight perspective. Rapid response protocols. If there's anything that's not working very well, it needs to be reported to management or ultimately to the board so that solutions are triggered and implemented. Digital M&E framework and tools are extremely important. Most entities still use Excel-based models, which are still, for me, yes, still good enough, but not the best way of improving efficiency. And now there are lots of AI tools that we've now subscribed to improve efficiency. This is just a case study on one of our project, Crave projects, where we had a lot of success factors in terms of building capacity, creating leadership and dedicated decision pathways to empower certain levels of execution. This is where you delegate certain functions from a project steering committee to the project management unit, for example, and also institutionalize some culture of efficiency and continuous improvement. Unfortunately, in the climate financing space, it's rapidly changing. So every year, after 2 years, you need to re-engineer yourself so that you reinvent how the institution function, realign to emerging requirements. And we do that on an annual basis. Yeah. Key takeaways is that project success hinges on proactive preparation across all stages. Early engagement with the GCF, support from the NDA, extremely important. To some extent, would communicate to the constituents board member of our country about the challenges or the advice that we seek for. I remember inviting our board members to Namibia to see some projects, and they came. Board member from the GCF representing our constituents. They came to Namibia. We took them out on a field trip to see what we do, and they loved it. It's very, very important. Yeah. Actionable recommendation for DA documentations and templates. Very important to start having documentation and templates. This could be for policies, standardization. This could be for concept notes, which are already given by the GCF, stakeholders management, monitoring system. What we're able to achieve, if I can just emphasize on this one, in 2016, when we applied for accreditation, our annual budget, or our funds under management was only about $2 million US. Because of our accreditation, we created credibility for the ERF. Since then, we have mobilized more than 600 million US. We've created about 4,800 jobs. We've invested in more than 60 megawatts of renewable energy plants. We've impacted more than 230,000 people directly and indirect. We financed SMEs within the green space, about 292. We've set up a blended financing facilities for 15 million, which is more than 200 loans. And this was because of the GCF accreditation. So main development partners and DFIs, started really feeling comfortable to work with the ERF, and we're enjoying that at the moment. This is one of our flagship projects in Namibia. It's a green hydrogen fund. We're busy capitalizing it with 1 billion euros. And what we do there, we financing green hydrogen production and associated infrastructure. We've partnered with climate fund managers who controls 51%, and us, we control 41%. And these are that are currently producing green hydrogen, using green hydrogen to process iron ore, green iron ore, direct reduced iron ore, and then we would move to the next value chain, which is green steel. And a couple more of ammonia fertilizers, methanol, kerosene, and these have started implementing this year. But one more slide, one or two more slides. So what we have done so far is that because we've got a lot of this experience at national level, we have identified one of an African advisory firm that supports entities with resource mobilization, accreditations, policy development, and carbon credits blended financing to find platform for sharing, information, partnership with a Pan-African entity We're supporting different projects across the country, the continent, including mainstreaming climate finance into the Nigerian DFIs, the SADC climate finance trainings that we are undertaking. We are also supporting direct access entities that are applying for accreditation for the first time in 10 African countries, and also supporting the Zambian water facility, which is a blended financing facility. Thank you so much. I've shared the presentation with Timothy, and Timothy, you're welcome to share it with everyone. And should you have any questions or any technical follow-up, my contacts are there. We'll be happy to attend to you. I really appreciate your patience and you listening to me. Thank you so much.